Hi, my name is Jim. I'm from Milwaukee. I know there's not a draft, but my understanding is you still have to register for the draft when you're 18. Is there any? Pardon? Males do. Males do. That's correct. Maybe sometime females. Here's the question. Well, is it useful to have a movement to register by U.S. Post Office where you get a hard copy of the registration, and then right on the top of the registration, I am a conscientious objector, to make considering yourself a conscientious objector part of the registration process?
I would answer that, and I'll also, I think Bill Galvin's over there, who's my coworker and been working on issues of conscience and selective service registration for years and years. But yes, absolutely. Any chance you get, declare yourself a conscientious objector. The selective service system does not allow young men to register as conscientious objectors. And remember, there's debate now happening in all branches of our government about registering women as well. And this is like a phony equality thing or something, as if women who are in the military get treated with equality and respect, right? So what we want to see is an abolition of the selective service system altogether. But yes, thank you, yes. Any steps that you can take to affirm your conscience are, of course, useful. Bill, did you want to add any more? Okay.
The woman in green here.
Hello, I'm Claire Hanrahan from Asheville, North Carolina. I became a conscientious objector to paying for war after seeing the moral injury to my brothers, who were both Vietnam veterans and since died horribly. I want to know who is addressing the moral injury we all face who continue to pay for war. Thank you.
Who'd like to answer?
I don't know how to answer that exactly.
Close to the mic.
Sorry, I don't really know how to answer that because, my taxes pay for more than war. It pays for a lot of things. So I think people should choose whether or not they want to not pay taxes, and that's fine, and declare that's the reason you're not doing it. But I think you have to remember there's a lot of things that taxes do pay for. For a short period of time, my family was on food stamps when I was a kid. So I don't know how to answer that. But I think generally speaking, maybe the fact like Veterans for Peace and all of us are working to end what's happening. And if you're paying taxes, work harder maybe than the people who aren't. But that's the only thing I can say about that.
I'll jump in and just say that there is a peace tax fund bill. John Lewis, every year for decades now, John Lewis, the great conscientious objector and civil rights activist in Congress, introduces every year the peace tax fund bill, which will allow people to pay their full share of taxes, but direct those taxes to, Malachi's here, he works for the peace tax fund, but direct their taxes to peaceful efforts. There you go. This is a real thing. And for a while, he just changed his website, but it was the first thing on John Lewis's website. When you opened up his website, it was the first thing. It's very special to him and very moving that he takes this stand every year on tax day. He introduces it, or Conscientious Objectors Day.
If I could just add, I think all of us, by living in a country that in our names and with our tax dollars and our silent consent, if we're silent, are responsible for the bombing of children and women and men in country after country after country, and for putting another $1 trillion into building nuclear weapons when we should be abolishing them. And this is our responsibility. That's the reason we cannot be silent. And my wife and I have refused to pay our 50% of our taxes, which goes for war every year for 40 years. So this side.
Hi, I'm Bill Galvin. I work with Marie at the Center on Conscience and War. And I think Claire actually knows the answer that she asked me, because besides besides the Campaign for Peace Tax Fund, there's also the National War Tax Resistance Coordinating Committee, which is a network of folks who are refusing to pay their taxes for war. And I just wanted to call your attention to that. But also I wanted to say that in terms of trying to end draft registration, I wanted to call your attention to the Center on Conscience and War. Go to our website, centeronconscience.org. We've got information out there about trying to contact members of Congress right now about stopping selective service.
Thank you. In the back.
John Fairfield, Eastern Mennonite University. Imagine being in a small church group. Imagine being in a small church group with Donald Trump. It's difficult to respect someone who is doing something that you consider to be evil. It is even harder to respect someone who considers that you are doing something evil. Yesterday, we were told that we should go build from the center out, that if we want to make a movement, we need to start with people who agree with us and move to people who maybe disagree with us a little bit, but not particularly waste our time on those who are really, really of the opposite persuasion. And so I'm asking, are we trying to build a political movement that wins, or are we trying to build relationships with people who have exceedingly different opinions than we do? Which is more productive in doing the work?
You said? I didn't hear.
Are we trying to build relationships, permanent, long-standing ones, with people who disagree with us deeply?
Anybody want to respond to that?
Well, I'll just say I'm not trying to build any relationship with the KKK, for example. So yeah. Well, because that's not my place. Maybe it's your place as a white person. You go do that. So let me finish. However, as I said before, there's allies to the peace movement that are on their own, dealing with their own struggles, that don't disagree necessarily with there being war, disagree with us about war, but they're fighting their struggle. So I would start with people who agree with us more than not, because you don't have as large of a gap. It doesn't make that much sense to try to bridge a gap that's so big that you might not be able to bridge it all. However, I somewhat agree with going ahead and trying to talk to the KKK, but there's certain people who should be doing that and others who can't. And that's not my place. That might be your place. But I do want to say this, though. A central issue to changing all this, and the political process as it is today and ending war, Trump and Hillary Clinton are able to do what they're doing because of this chasm between poor black people and poor white people. That is key to what is happening today. So if we want to change what Dr. King was killed over and the Vietnam War, I really believe that, and Fred Hampton in Chicago as well, the first Rainbow Coalition. If we want to change the dynamics of politics in the United States, we need to bridge that gap. So those people might be further away, and that's one place I do want to reach out. And just, I don't want to keep talking, but I want to say part of that is people learning each other's history. Black people's history in terms of where I'm from, I really don't know. I don't know my history. But poor white people, and most of the white people in this room, all of our history has been erased, and we've been taught a myth. The oppression that black people face, poor whites have faced in a different way. So we have to find a message to help people relearn history, to see that we have much, much, much more in common than we don't, and not to continue to believe in a myth that tells us there's something separate going on, because there isn't. And so maybe that gets to what you're talking about, maybe.
Thank you. In the back.
Hi, folks. Michael Marceau, Veterans for Peace, D.C. area chapter. Two quick points. Number one, I was drafted on my 20th birthday, so consider this when I say this. I am in favor of bringing the draft back with two provisions. Number one, the first group of people to go will be the sons and daughters of the members of Congress and the administration. The second group of people to go in the draft are the sons and daughters of the defense contractors. But my other point, the idea behind peace at home, peace abroad, I think that one of the things we could do a little better at is trying to draw the connection with the amount of money that the Pentagon gets, which is about 60% of our discretionary funding, and a lot of that goes to all the overseas bases that were mentioned in the previous seminar panel here today. And the other one is, how do we bring that money home and use it to fix Metro, to fix our building, bridges, to fix our healthcare system, to fix our education system, to retrain police so that they don't shoot unarmed black men and women in the streets of Charlotte and Tulsa and wherever else. So how do we do that? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody?
Well, I'll say this. Two things. One is, I don't say make connections when it comes to these issues, because as I said, it's uncovering them because the connections are there. We need to make connections with people. You make connections with people because we need to know more people and talk to more people and build those relationships that he was talking about. So we're uncovering the connections with the issues, which I think will help people see that they need to be against war and against the so much spending of discretionary spending on war to these issues. But you got to build those relationships and gain trust first.
Thank you. So the woman here, please.
Recently, I went to Paris in UNESCO because they originated a big program on a decade of a culture of peace and non-violence for the children of the world. And I was surprised to find out that now they've changed the title of their program to an international decade for the rapprochement of culture, which is a new articulation between the cultural diversity and universal values. So I just wanted to, I was surprised to find that out.
Thank you.
And that's what we need to do here.
Yes. There's a woman over on the other side that had her hand up, I think.
Thank you. I'm Mary Leopold. I'm with Pax Christi. Are you hearing me? Yeah? Oh, okay. And also with... Okay. Okay. Good now? You began to address it, but I'm thinking if the topic of this panel is building a culture of peace, Gandhi said if we want peace, we have to begin with the children. And I haven't heard anything about our program in schools about education beginning with very small children. So I would just like to hear someone talk about that.
And then that'll be the last question. It's 3:30 and we need to go on the next session. But John, or either of you?
I don't know. I think we have to listen to the children, right? So I'll tell you one more story that moved me to tears the other day. A guy called and he said, I joined the Army and I don't want to go. He said, let me tell you what happened. I had my little 5-year-old boy on the couch sitting on my lap, and he grabbed my face and he said, Daddy, I love you. And he said, I love you too. And then he said, I don't want you to join the armies. And he said, why? I'm going to get the bad guys. And he said, how do you know they're bad? And then he said, yeah. But then he went on and he said, killing is not God's way. That's a 5-year-old boy.
So I think you're right that we didn't specifically speak about children, and that's, I think, an oversight. So thank you for pointing that out. However, I do think, though, that the communities that I'm talking about connecting with and helping people find justice in their communities will impact the children. Because, like in Chicago, for example, if the communities in Chicago can find ways to lower the amount of violence in their communities, it will help children. As we build structures of peacemaking in communities, which is one of the things I briefly mentioned, that will help children. So it's really about, I think, changing our society as a whole, which will help children. And I don't know if it exactly starts with the children, because if the parents aren't peaceful and the parents can't make ends meet, etc., there's no way the children are going to learn how to be peaceful. However, maybe if we can get people to look at the children, as you were saying, and listen to them, that can help transform how we think and what we do. So I'm not sure if it starts with the children, but maybe it starts with them in terms of putting them at the center of our society and how we treat each other, because for the sake of the children, possibly. So,
thank you. John, do you have any? Thank you very much to the panel.